Okay.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. I wanted to start this prayer for any communication about my life and with my sister, my daughter Bridget. Uh, Starting this, should I say, program. So I want to dedicate it to the Holy Family. It's Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus. And this is my family and my life that I'm been writing about. So, dear Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, as the Holy Family of our Christian life, we I ask you to pray over our project here of my life's stories, and I dedicate it to you, the Holy Family, and your Holy Spirit, inspiring us all to a gift to have my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren know about my life. This I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay.
All right, Mom.
All right. Bridget contacted me on this and thinking that you would like to see me talk about my life and my family instead of just the writing. And I said, okay. And now here I am. Here I am, Bridget. Okay. I have pages that I add to it as I come back and just add some more stories to it. But it's interesting. I got a note from my cousin Ricky Reed, who lived with our grandparents, Grandpa Homer Wilson and Marie O'Brien Wilson, in the big house on Bennett Avenue. And I didn't know this till I read his story. And then I found out that I was born, first of all, that Mom and Dad, I want to say a little bit about my mom and dad. They were married in 1929 after a year in college at St. Mary's University and Incarnate Word College in San Antonio. And then they lived through the Deep Depression on their being newly married. Hit 1929, lasted through the 30s. Mom and Dad moved to Indiana about a job where Jimmy and Pat, 1931 and 32, born, and with Mary Elise, having been born in 1933 and died in 1935 after 18 months of being living. And she died, Mary Elise died of food poisoning. And I have another story about that later. After being gone for about 5 years, Mom and Dad came back to live with Homer and Marie Wilson in their fourplex, huge apartment building. And they lived on the ground floor on the other side of this huge hallway, whereas my grandparents lived on the left side. And then there was an upstairs with two apartments. Joanne was born in 35, and then who else? Let's see. This is interesting. I do this. I come back. Joanne was Joann, and then interesting that Homer did not like his name, so he put T, and T stands for Texas, and he never did it officially. My mother, Mary O'Brien, didn't like her name Mary, so she put Marie and never officially did it. Now here comes along Joanne later in life. She didn't like, it was too plain, Joann, so she put an E. So it must be in our genes that we change our names for some reason. It comes to think of it, it could be changing a name, adding an initial, but guess what? Robert Notzon was named after Robert Stephen McCaffrey, my brother, and Robert in second grade changed his name from Stevie to Robert. So here's another generation. He didn't even know what happened before him. He did it. So we'll get some more of that later on, okay? And then in 1936, Charles Joseph was born after birth, and my uncle Dennis O'Brien, who was the physician on staff who delivered him, he baptized him. And mother and they kind of knew something about that, so they were prepared for his death. And the next one was John Charles, was born in 1937. I have these dates, but should I say dates?
I think that that's fine. It's just like
you're not interested too much.
Well, it's not as narrative. It's not as much of a story.
Yeah.
It's more of a listing of dates. And it's leading you to their stories. And so I think it's working.
Well, okay. So John Charles was born. Now, nobody knew who he was. He was alive, living with us, and his name was Skippy. And all through schools, grade school, high school, except in the Army. In the Army, he was Lieutenant John Charles. But even us kids didn't know his name was John Charles. But that's crazy. Crazy that, he was named Skippy and that was it. Ursula was born a year after Skippy, and that makes 5 children and 2 deaths by after Ursula's born. Then here I was in 2 years after Ursula in 1940, and at the time I was number 6 in the family. And it's interesting because I didn't know I was living at Bennett Avenue with my grandparents, because of course I was just a newborn baby. So we moved when I was a child of like 1 year old to the house on Bowser. And that's what I wanted to tell you about that, is Bowser Avenue was in the Holy Trinity. Well, grandparents' parish was Sacred Heart Cathedral, okay? And now I'm moving. Here I was born, number 6, living with my grandparents. And then here I am, the newborn, moving into a new home on Bowser. The interesting thing about our house on Bowser is that I'm just thinking about parents, what possessed them to buy this craftsman house with 2 bedrooms, a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, bathroom, and a long screened-in porch. And there's 6 of us moving into this to this house. So I will tell you this, that we had 3 boys and 3 girls sharing 1 bedroom. And I said. We had 3 girls in 1 bedroom and 3 boys living out in the back porch. But by that time, they screened it in and made it part of the house, okay? So the craftsman's house turned out to be later on that no dining room, because they put bunk beds in there. Because by that time we had, I think there was, me, and then Eileen, Donnie, Stevie, Margaret, Christine, and Tommy. So 6 more were born being in the house on Bowser. And what's interesting is the beds on the porch were Army steel, wired, single beds, real slim. And there's 7 beds out there. And I will have to tell you, there's no heat in that back bedroom. The only heat and air conditioning in our house on Bowser was the gas heater in the living room where the fireplace was, and there's this big gas heater. And Mother did not want to ever use it as a fireplace because one of her younger sisters died in a home fire. So Mother was off limits there. But interesting that's the only heat in the house. Now that's a living room. We have a hallway, and we have a bedroom and a bathroom and another bedroom, and then a kitchen, and then of course the dining room out in front. And then we had that long porch, which was one end of the house to the other. You might ask yourself, were we a little cold? Yes. But we adjusted. We're kids. What are you thinking about? So I don't know how we did without heat, but I know that we always ran at like our bath. When we took a bath, it was Ursula, Eileen, and I, three together. Huge bathtub, huge bathroom. And we would go, run in with our towels and run by the fire. And my mother would she'd take our towel and dry our hair, and here we are with nude in the living room, all lined up, and here's Mother taking like in sequence, and then we run back, get our pajamas on or whatever. But you just adjusted to that is what it is. But and the only air conditioning we had was an attic fan, and what's interesting about an attic fan is it blew all the air out and just circulated it, and it was fine. That's kind of like the old time air conditioning. I don't know if anybody in Bridget, do you know anything about attic fans? You do. So what the problem could have been for some people, but not for us, is that the attic fan sounded like a jet plane was landing on our roof of our house. But hey, we got used to the noise. I mean, it just put us to sleep. So we played hard. We slept easily. Okay. So I know about that. But let's see what happens when when Daddy. Oh, it's something else about the Craftsman house. Let me see what the hell I'm trying to think, because it was another story. Oh, I have to say this. Daddy ran our home like a boot camp. When he was home, he had a whistle or a bell, and he would ring it and wake us up for school, or when he was around, or for church, or whatever it was. Our monthly meetings, that he did that also. But he liked to ring it a little bit too loud, but you could hear him laughing. Dad was one of these funny guys. He just enjoyed life. That's what I would say about my dad. And that's another thing. You don't complain when Daddy's around. He's kind of like a mountain, a strict kind of personality. But behind us, he would laugh, or he wouldn't kind of let us see his humor. But he was everybody in my adult life told me about stories about my dad, and Jim would tell jokes, and just was full of. Well, he told some of the jokes he did on us. I'll tell you about. But he had to do some of these jokes because it was about Francis, his redhead wife. He wanted to entertain. That's what he did. He entertained. He was an entertainer, and guess what? In his high school album, he was on the acting, club. I can understand why he carried that through his life. One of the jokes that he did. Let's see, what is it? What does he say? What did he do? One of the jokes. Well, first of all, he liked to buy the latest gadget. mainly for Christmas. My mother's birthday, December 18th, for her birthday. Like she would open up a brand new can opener, and for her birthday. And my mother says, "Oh, Jim, how wonderful! Now, how do you use it?" So my daddy would have to show her how to use it, and she says, and my mother, joking back at me, but very serious, she said, "Well, Jim, now I know what you're going to do. You're going to have the job of opening all the cans for dinner or for all the meals." So that's how they would kind of joke back and forth. And I grew up with this kind of thing. Well, came time for us when we moved to our Gooding Drive house. Daddy bought a brand new lawnmower. So he got out and started the lawnmower, and Mother was hearing this noise, and then some of the kids, of course, were always running around everywhere. So one kid after the other went outside and sat on that little steps on our new house. And Daddy did the lawnmower like an S or an X, and just, it was horrible what he was doing, laughing the whole time. And my mother comes out. Of course, Mother always has one baby, or one over here and one here. And Angela, I need to take care of the toddlers, keep them safe. Jim, and she would always say, "Jim, what are you doing?" And he's, "I'm cutting the grass." I can see that. Here's this conversation going on with Mother and Dad. This is what we saw. They entertained us is what they did. So Daddy would turn off the lawnmower. He says, "Well, what do you think?" And Jim says, Mom says, "Well, Dad, honey," no, Jim, "does this mean you're going to stay home on Saturdays to mow the lawn?" He says, "No, that's not my intent." "Then what do you have this for?" And Daddy would say, "For our sons. They're going to be doing the lawns." And my mother would say, "Jim, I would like to see you do it once in a while to show, camaraderie with your sons, that you're not just letting them do something that you wouldn't do." So this is happening. So one of the other things that I had come up with, I'm skipping down the line. Dad drove up on the curb in a car and drove to the steps on Gooding Drive on our front porch, and he honked the car, and we all came out, and here's this English Morris Minor convertible, the top down car, and we all ran out. Of course, being kids, and of course he turned off the motor. Some jumped on the back, some jumped on the top, some jumped in the. You could just see us all running and in and out and jumping and running around, and Mother says, "Oh, now Jim, you've done it. What? What is this?" And Daddy would say, "Frances, it's a car." "I know it's a car, but for who? Who's going to ride in a tiny little sports car for this kind of family?" Dad said, "Frances, I got a deal, and it's a great car, and Angela's going to drive it. She'll have time and to drive the kids to school and go pick them up and do your errands for you, and the family car will be okay. I'll be taking my car to more business meetings." So that's what I got as a sophomore in high school, is this cute little blue, and I wish I had a picture of it, but I don't. But anyway, I had that for sophomore, junior, and senior year, 3 years. I had that's Morris Minor car. But Mother accepted Daddy. She battered him back and forth, but she accepted him the way he was. I think it giggled her, entertained her too. And I think that the business of Daddy working at Southwest Life Insurance Company is that His clients were mainly doctors, and the doctors had 4, 5, 6, 7 children, big families. And my father, for every new baby of his clients, he would buy them a Taylor Tot, and that is a super duper stroller. And I have a picture of it right here. Can you see? And it even had fenders. You can see it. And my father would go and surprise visit to these doctors and their wives and give them a stroller. And of course, it came in a box and they had to, put it together. But my father says, okay, well, Francis, well, when do you, what color would you like it? And, Jim, I'm not going to have one of those strollers, one of those Taylor Tots in my home. Where would you put them? What room do we have? Just think about it, Jim. So Daddy would say, okay. And so we never got not a Taylor Tot, and that I know it, that I remember in our home. Okay, that's the story of that. But that was the other thing my father did. He was always surprising his clients. And I came across a nanny from Dallas that moved here to San Antonio, and she approached me and she says, Angela, you're a McCaffrey, aren't you? And I went, well, for heaven's sakes, is it written on my on my shoulder? How do you know I'm a McCaffrey? She said, someone told me, okay, Mrs. Bush, who I was a nanny for, Dr. Bush's wife, and they had 6 children, and he was what was he? Gynecologist. Well, he's a gynecologist. I think that was his field of medicine. But Mrs. Bush, Madeline Bush, told Dolores, the nanny, if you get to San Antonio, and Angela, her name is Angela Notzon, her married name is. See, Madeline knew all of us, and be sure and talk to her because she'll want to know all about her dad. And so that's what happened when Dolores came to my life, and that's how she knew that I was a McCaffrey. And we've been close friends ever since. And this is about 12 or 15 years ago. And she's had Our Lady of Grace, and she's told me so many wonderful stories about Dad. And one of the reasons why they hired Dolores is that she's Hispanic, and she was teaching Spanish to the Bush children. And one of the Bush children's name is James Horace. My dad, even some of his brothers' children are named James, or there's one called Kevin Horace McCaffrey. And so Daddy lived there. Mother, no one ever named any of their children Francis. I don't know. This is just the way it is. But the influence of my daddy in doing that, okay? So I love it. Oh, I love it that when we moved over on Balliser, we were always outside. Games in the yard, games in the street. Remember, go out in the street where it's safe. Well, I grew up that way. We played out in the street. The games I remembered was the Red Rover game. Y'all, I don't know if y'all are going to know any of these things. You can't. How could you? And the game goes like this: Red Rover, and there's 2 lines of people of teams, A team and B team, and they're holding hands. They're holding arms. And this team would say to the other long line of kids, calling it, Red Rover, and they would ask one of the ones on the other team by name, like, Angela, come over. And I would back up and run as hard as I could to break the arm hands. And if I broke in, then I was on their team. And the team with let's see, how does that work? Oh, you were trying to get no one to break in. And so most of the kids didn't break in and had to step out. So this A team was winning because they kept everybody, they had their thing, and the B team was losing. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know. If not, text me. Then there was Simon Says. Simon Said, we were all in a circle. And here's how it goes. Simon says, clap your hands. So all the circle, we'd clap our hands. And the leader says, again, Simon says, stomp your feet. And we would stomp our feet. And then the leader would say, okay, turn around. And those turn around, but guess what? He didn't say Simon Says. So we were out. The ones that turned around were out. Oh, I did it. Oh, we're out. And the ones that were really smart, and sometimes I wasn't so smart there, and I would get out. But boy, I tried to pay attention the next time. But that was a fun game. Again, Mother had glass jars and tops of the glass jars, so we would go out and collect lightning bugs and see how many lightning bugs we could catch, and whoever got the most won. Okay, you know what? They were just fun to look at because they were light, so we would want to take them in the house, and Mother would say, off limits, no bugs in the house. So we released them, and finally that was nice of us to do that. Softball in the yard, in or out, in the yard or the streets, always softball games. Roller skating all year long. Hopscotch, and I think you know hopscotch, where you do 1 to 12 and marked in squares, triangles, and maybe small triangles, and then throw a rock. And and your rock would be on what number, and also anybody else's rocks that would be there, you don't step on that what do you call it, geometric figure that was made in chalk. So I always loved that game. That was one of my favorite ones. Let's see. Hide and seek. Everybody knows about hide and seek. I didn't like hide and seek because I never wanted to be the one finding them, because you have to find them, and then not only find them, but you got to touch them. Once you touch them, then they're going to be the one that has to be the leader of the hide and seek. And I was afraid that I would be caught and then I would get it. So I made sure I hid a really good place, but hurry up and run back to base before they could catch me. So that was some kind of a thing that I had about hide and seek. Now, in other words, I didn't like that game. Marbles. The marble games were getting a sandy place in a circle and having little marbles in the circle, all randomly different ways, and having a large marble and shooting the marble like this with your thumb and hit a marble, and then you get that marble. Okay, you shoot 2 marbles, you get those 2, and probably 3 or 4 people could play this, but we usually was like 3 maybe. And I liked it, but it was mostly the guys' game. And the reason why is that they had marble collections, and they had but that wasn't something that we girls collected or did anything, but they let us play once in a while with them. Let's see what else. There are probably more games that I could think of that I haven't put in here, but I thought that was interesting. The other thing that was nice about our house on Bowser is that 3 or 4 blocks was a public park called Hay Park, that I remember these names that's coming up. This is interesting. And the school was named after some president or something, elementary school. Big, huge building. But they had a great softball softball what do you call it? For 4 softball games already laid out. And then the swimming pool at the park was a 25-foot long pool and about 12 feet long. I mean, length and width. And then it was 3 feet to about 8 feet. And and two ladders near the deep end. That was the most fantastic time because what we did, the ones that were older, every summer they started it. We knew the day that the director was going to be coming. We knew when she was going to start putting in the water. Of course, there was no water during the winter. They emptied it out after the summer. That's what it was. But we would go, and as they were by the deep end, coming down into the pool, and we would bring our toddler children, brothers and sisters, like something like 2, 3, 4, something like that, 5. The rest of us all came. So you know what? I don't even know. I'm sure there was other families, children's there, but we dominated the whole Hay Park summer program because there were so many of us. But we would put our brothers and sisters that were 2, 3, and 4, and we would put them down on their tummies. And as the water was filled in the pool, it would push them out. And that's how they learned how to swim. Because after a while, the water, of course, got deeper into like 2, 3 feet from the deep end, starts getting deeper. And so we had to move out a little bit further and a little bit further. And then they started floating. So I don't even know if Mother knew that we were doing this. Did we take the children and not let her know we did it? Probably not. But it's just something, okay, this is something in a big family you got to know. You don't bother your mother about permission. You don't bother your mother about telling her where you're going and what you're going to do, when you're going to be back. No, we had the freedom of just, we'll be back later, Mom. We're going to the pool. They're filling the pool. I think we'll take, we'll take Donnie and Stevie and maybe we'll take Margaret Ann this time. So that I'm sure that's probably how we did it. And of course, they were wearing diapers. There's no such thing as bathing suits in those days. So they were diapers. And the diapers were cotton diapers that you pinned, okay? That's what they had, and little T-shirts. So we would take them in, and of course, and then I guess we took them home. But that was a fun thing that I remember about that swimming. And the other thing is, of course, there's your swimming idea for me. But I always won the swimming contest of diving in the deep end and swimming underwater 25 feet and then coming back halfway. And then I came up, and nobody could, most of them couldn't even come to the 25. But I had that lung capacity, and that's what the doctor said when I was younger, when I had so many asthma attacks. Swimming would be good for you. So just be sure you get going to swim. And for some reason, the chlorine didn't bother me. I don't think there was that much chlorine maybe, but that's what I had and loved and was always there. And the swimming was probably something like 2 to 4 in the afternoon. And I think the park was like opened at 10 and closed at 5, something like that. But we lived at the park. So it was Ursula, the boys know Skippy, and they all had jobs. And Joanne would never be at a park. No, Joanne, she's not athletic at all, so she was not allowed. So it's Ursula, Eileen, Angela, Mike, Donnie, Stevie, and Margaret. Maybe Margaret she was just like about 1. So the others would. So it's just that many, 6 of us that were at the park all the time. And I remember, and we go like 10 or 11 in the summer, and the events at the park were incredible. They had we were on the softball team. They had a swimming team. The games that they had were horseshoes, ring throw, which is a ring toss, washers. I don't know if you heard of the washers, but it's about 25 feet and it's a hole, and you throw a washer, which had a hole in it. It was steel and round. I was the midget first place winner of washers 2 summers in a row. And midget means before you're 13. When you're 13, you're now in the junior class of level called. But I loved it. I loved doing whatever. And the games were just incredible because they had, the manager had a storage, storage house, and inside there were all her equipment for the summer. And she had chess, and she had dominoes, and she had other game, something like mystery games or something like that. I never played those games. I'm telling you, you have to sit there and play. No, I was never sitting. I was, and I would ask the director, okay, can I do something in the pool? Can I clean the sides, or can I? And she'd say, oh yeah, go ahead. Well, I always had my bathing suit on and my shorts, and so I would jump in and do some errands for her. Always around the pool. That was something I liked to do, and she welcomed me to do it. But one of the other wonderful things about living 3 or 4 blocks from the park is that they had a movie night on Friday nights, probably maybe 3 or 4 during the summer. And they had the one side of the building of the elementary school, they had a sheet, and they go up on the roof and put this huge 1 or 2 sheets up there. And we would, they would announce, okay, we're having this movie. And so we would come. I think it was we would get over there by 8 o'clock or something like that. And it wasn't quite dark, but so maybe 8:45 or something like that. But we would bring our blankets, bring popcorn. It's interesting, and drinks, but it's interesting. We never had sodas. We just didn't have sodas, and Mother didn't have them. So we would just we didn't even bring water. The reason why we didn't bring water is because we always drank out of the hose. And so if the hose was around at the park, we drank water from the hose. And this is after somebody else drank out of the hose. But that's how we got our liquors. But anyway, we never minded. And guess what? We're so busy. We never saw the other children coming. We saw them, but we never. That was just a thought. We looked at them and then, okay, good. But they had little lunch boxes and things like that. Well, we had sacks. We put a sandwich in it or something like that, and that's how we did it. And we loved the blankets, and Mother and Daddy never came to the movies, and I think whoever came that with us, we gather our family, and never lawn chairs. Are you kidding? Who has lawn chairs? You don't get lawn chairs. Just the blankets. And so we come home and shake our blankets out and put them away for the next movie. But everything that I can think of at that age, that age till about 12 or 13 years of age, was always involved with family. But I was an individual, and I got to do things that I wanted and I liked, and the freedom to do it. So I don't know, another thing about church. I know the boys were altar servers, and I know they probably went to early mass, so we didn't, I wasn't watching what mass they went to or anything, but I know there was one mass that we always mostly attended was the 9 o'clock mass. And then, of course, we're walking 8 or 9 blocks to Holy Trinity. And, but I know that on Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, we all had our new dresses and our new little outfits. And the boys had new shirts, new shorts, new slacks, and I don't know how Mother did it. I don't know how we bought shoes and the dresses, and she had a professional photographer take pictures of us. I have all those in my scrapbooks. But I just know that that's the only time that we went to mass totally, all of us together. And Daddy had a car, and was it old Dodge or something like that? But when he was home, but of course on the mass day, on the special holiday masses, he would let us all get in the car. Well, the back seat was way back. There was a lot of room. So 3 could sit in front, and then we all just climbed in the back, sitting on each other's laps or whatever. You never heard of seatbelts. You know that. That wasn't existing. But I have to tell you about this one, another joke came to my mind right now, is Dad came, so it's summer, and Daddy came and drove up, and it was about 8 o'clock at night. It was I think it was getting dark, and Daddy honked his horn, and it was a Jeep. And so we all come in and come out, and this is we were on Bowser. Most of some of these games and things that came from the experience on Bowser. I'll never forget. There's only 2 seats in the front. In the back, they had on this Jeep, they had side seats, and then the back latch would go down. So 2 people could probably sit there. Well, when she was so small, so how about 3 there and 3 there, and instead of 2, maybe 2 sat in the front seat and Dad, and then pile up, and of course he wouldn't put the seat thing, the latch down the back. You just climbed on the fender and you jumped in, and so we're all kind of some in the middle, and Mother comes out and sees us all. Mom, this is fun. It's not even going anywhere. It's just stationary, and we're just having so much fun. And Mother's saying, Jim, and I can only quote her again, what have you done this time? Because that was her mantra. Jim, what? And the kids and I would look at Dad, and then look at Mom, and then look at Dad would say, and then do it. And we were, this is called entertainment in a big house. This is what we lived at. And so Dad says, well, what do you, Francis, come and sit in the front seat. Oh no, my mother would have nothing to do with Jim and his shenanigans. The t-shirt I got for my 80th birthday, shenanigans, Mother would say. And so she would take care of the little teeny ones, and Daddy would take us down by Holy Trinity on Oak Lawn Avenue was the root beer stand. Can't think of the name of it right now, but we could have the cones that comes out, the ice cream comes out, the machine swirls out, or you could have a root beer float, or you could have a purple cow, and the purple cow was grape drink and ice cream. Okay, I always went for the root beer. I was a root beer fan. And there we are eating, out there. And Daddy says, "Okay, get the Jeep." Dad, the little ones haven't finished. Well, that's okay. No, it isn't, Dad, because it's going to be ice cream all over your Jeep, and I don't think you're going to keep this Jeep, Dad. I was seeing a sensibility of properness. So I had a voice, and I used it. Dad listened to me. So we waited till everybody, finished their ice cream cone or their whatever. and wiped their lips down and their hands and everything, got back in the Jeep and drove back home. That was the one and only experience of riding in a Jeep ever. And that was, I knew, Mom's fault. She was, yeah. But Daddy made up for it a few years later with the Morris Minor. This time, Daddy bought it and brought it home and didn't ask his wife, Frances, about the permission. But, I'm just thinking so many other stories and how, Eileen, here Eileen and I are just, 14 to 15 months old difference. And what happened with me is I caught, when you say caught, I had asthma when I was like 3 and 4 years of age. And so that made me separated from Eileen a lot because there are things that I just would be, wheezing. And I didn't have the spray thing. I always had to go to the hospital and get oxygen gel. And I remember one of these times, not one of these times, when I was about 4 years old, I couldn't sleep at night. So I would just get up, and I know I'd get to go in the living room. Daddy was always there, and he was reading or reading a book or studying. He had paperwork to do or work to do. And this time he was playing cards with these probably seminarians, because they were priests, because they wore their black, open collar, but they short sleeve. They didn't have too many fun shirts at that time. And so I would climb up in Daddy's lap. And here I am, breathing that asthma, and he would help play. He would continue playing cards, and I would just be watching and read like that. And this priest came and said, Jim, can I hold it? What's her name? And he said, Angela. And can I hold it? Will she let me? And he says, oh, she'll let you. So Daddy plopped me into the priest's arm, and then he left the card table and went over and some chair, and he was rocking me. The reason why I know about this story is that years later, I was at a wedding in Castroville, and there was a Jesuit priest, an older Jesuit priest, and this priest, after Mass, I just went over and said, well, Father, I don't know if you have ever been to Dallas. And he said, oh, yes, I know Dallas very well. I said, well, did you know the McCaffrey family? Oh, Jim McCaffrey is one of my best friends. I said, well, that's my dad. And he says, really? He says, I said, well, I must have met you when I was younger. He says, well, I remember one episode about a little girl that came in the room when Jim and I were playing. There's 3 of us playing cards, and this little daughter of his just was wheezing, and she got into Jim's lap. He's telling me this story. I can't say anything because I just didn't know what to say. So he just talked about this child, and he says, and I think I helped her go to sleep. I was rocking her. And I said, yes. Father, do you remember the little girl's name? And he said, no, I wouldn't remember that. I said, well, her name was Angela. And he says, yes. I said, because I'm a McCaffrey, and that was me that you held. I remember that. And he was lost for words. And I said, Father, that's a special memory. I'll never forget. And thank you. Now, I can't remember his name. I said after the wedding, I was going to go home and write his name down. But I didn't. But that's one of the things that separated me from Eileen. She didn't have some of these special moments, because I would do that again. I would wake up in the middle of the night and go in and get in Daddy's arms. And he would just keep on reading or keep studying or whatever. And then he would take me and put me down. And the bed I slept in was Ursula, Eileen, and me. seemed like I was always on the end because, of course, I was kept getting up, and I think that's what they knew that the other girls did. So we slept in this bed for ourselves. But the other asthmatic times that I had, I remember this. I was 6 years old, and I was had too many episodes of my asthma attack, so I missed first grade studies. And I remember this one time I was jumping on that double bed, and I reached up and pulled the wallpaper off the wall. And I would go over into the next one and pull the wallpaper off. And jumping, just I see, asthmatics hyper. They're giving you medicine, and that's what happens to you. And that's what was doing. Mother came in and said, "Oh my God, what are you doing, Angela?" And so she would give me some medicine, and then I'd pass out, go to sleep. And I didn't do that anymore, but Mother never went back with that wallpaper. She had it painted or something, that room, so that's it. But I remember then missing a lot of that school, but didn't miss it so much because Eileen was home. Eileen, Mike, and Donnie were home, and probably were Stevie. So there's 4 others underneath me that were home. So I was kind of enjoying that I was home with them. And so that's why then I go to the hospital, get the treatment, and come back. So then they put me in first grade with Eileen. And then something about that, I was doing better, but I liked school because I liked I liked my uniform. And I liked the PE was my favorite. Anytime I could go outside and play, and all the equipment, jump rope, and anything we wanted to play, and ball, soccer, baseball, anything was great. And the swings were huge, and that was good for my health because I concentrated kind of on that, I guess, But the things that I remember about the doctor giving me a test when I was about 4 or 5 years old, they're scratching on the back that they gave. And what happened is my mother went with me, and she held my hand, and she says, "Now this might hurt a little bit." And I remember something like, "Mom, you're with me. It's okay." It looks like Mother had that worried look more than I had it. And so what it was, I was allergic to chocolate dust, feather pillows. What is that? When it rains, you get that gray stuff in your bathrooms, or mold. Oh, mold. It may be something else, but it came out on I remember Mother saying this. Doctor, I don't know what to do about the dust because there's dust in our house. And he says, he told me, well, nothing, no comment, no expression. Well, Francis, get a good vacuum cleaner. So Mother comes home and tells Jim, we need a new vacuum cleaner and maybe 2. And that's when Daddy would come, go out and get some vacuum cleaners. But there was no way that she could keep up with the dust. I mean, and so that's why I reacted to all this. But what made me mad, coming back from that doctor's office, I told my mother, how can you be allergic to chocolate? Chocolate is candy. And so my mom says, yes, it is, but it's something that it's in your system that you don't know. I like chocolate. Don't say it's in my system. I don't like it. I like it. So my mother says, okay, what I'll do is just once in a while, you can have a little piece of chocolate. It can't hurt you if it has once in a while. And so I did get once in a while. Everybody else having a big chocolate bar. I'm having a little piece of chocolate. But I dealt with it, because I knew I didn't want to have that asthma. But that is part of my life, and I had it in grade school, asthma attack, and I had to stay home. I remember that one time in fourth grade, the teacher says, okay, tomorrow we're going to have a written test on the Our Father. So I came home and I thought, I forgot about it, but in the middle of the night, I thought, Our Father, I've got to write it. Our who art. Wait, I don't know if I could write it and remember it. And I worked myself into an asthma attack. So the morning, there I was having an asthma attack, couldn't go to school. And then that I'm dealing with the attack, and then a few days or the next week or something, they got their papers back of the Our Father written, and they got the grade. And I looked over what they had, and I didn't have it. And I said, I'm not going to say anything, because then she's going to make me sit down and write it. And so I got away with not writing that. And I didn't get a grade, so I don't know how she did that. But I do know I was very fond of saying the Our Father. Since I couldn't write it, I didn't know if I could write it, but I remember I could say it really well. But that happened, and then I had another asthma attack or two in high school, Ursuline High School, and I would get out of class, and I would just go, and I want to know if it had something to do with the studies, if I wanted to get out of a study or a test or something, and if I have symptomatics, I think my mind would do that to me. It could trigger that. But I'd go to the clinic, and there's a bed there, and the nun would give me something to drink, and I know what it was now, but I didn't know what it was in. It was kind of a sleeping dose pill, and I slept the whole day. So and I guess I wheezed all through the sleeping, and then she would wake me up at 3:30 or something. She said, okay, Angela, it's time for you to go. You're okay. You're doing fine. And I was breathing better. And then I went home. I never told my mother or father that I was in the clinic, and when you get into the house, you're a part of the group, the house. There's plenty of things going on. I'm going to start setting the table. I'm going to do things. So that's how it is with a big family. You don't mention these things. Another thing, you don't mention it to your mom that this is what you had and it happened to you. Eileen and I were seniors, and we had a new PE teacher, and she had us basketball season. She had us practicing till 6 at night. So we came home one night and looked at Mother, who was feeding the children. We were late for supper, and we talked about this. This is what we did. We talked about it. We did the dishes, and we told Mother we're sorry. She didn't know. She knew we were at practice, somebody, whatever. But Eileen and I went upstairs to our bedroom, and we said, we're getting off the team. We can't have our mother do that all by herself. And so that we never discussed it with Mother. Next day we were there, helping, right after school. She never asked. See, she couldn't ask if she couldn't remember, because she's gone to the next things. So that's what we did. So,
do you want to wrap up here, Mama?
Yes, I'm grateful that my memory is working, and that I came up with the word Taylor taught, but I misspelled it. And I have to say real quickly, Daddy is the one that Googled it, and he says, I really think it's spelled this way. And of course, he's correct.
Yeah.
So that's how I got that. So I thank you, Bridget, for letting me do this. Yes.
Great.
Uh-huh.
Great story.
And you thought you'd have to prompt your mother, didn't you, to talk?
No, I knew that was going to be the issue. But I do have, let me share the screen with you so you can see and maybe tell me. You see my screen?
Wait, I saw
some cars.
I see some cars. Oh,
Mars Minor.
Mars Minor. Oh, the wonderful. Oh, yes. It can't be light blue. It's probably the darker blue. The second one right there.
This one?
Borschmeyer. Uh-huh.
That one, Mom?
Uh-huh. Isn't that something? Or even the one over here, whatever, looks from the top down, another view.
This one?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Bridget,
Wow.
Bridget, can you believe my father giving that?
That's amazing.
And losing it.
Well, I get, there's a story about that.
Yeah, you
A
can tell that next time.
Okay, we'll do
continuation.
that next time. And then here's the Taylor Tot
There,
stroller picture of that.
Right.
there is
That's
it.
the one she has.
Yeah.
And see the fenders and everything, but it came in a box. You had to put it together.
Oh, you did.
Oh, look, in the 40s. See, it was the 40s, 50s.
That's the same side I showed you.
Uh huh.
Wow. All
So,
right.
yes. Bridget, how did you do that? Did you do it while I was
I just
talking?
looked it up while you were talking. This is great. Are you ready to stop recording?
Yeah. Uh huh.
Okay. Let's see.